Thank you, Will, so much for being here today. I just wanted to start with the opportunity for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your role in the organisation that you work with.
I'm Will Siero from the Murdoch Children's Research Institute. We're Australia's largest child health research institute based down in Melbourne in the Parkville precinct. And my role is I'm the project manager and stream lead for the GenV 2020 cohort, or Generation Victoria, as some people may have heard about it. And so that means I'm responsible for supporting our field team across 60 hospitals, all the maternity services across Victoria, and we've got about 140 team members across the state, speaking with new families every day.
And you mentioned earlier that it's been about 3 or 4 years that you've been on this journey. I'm curious, just to go back to the beginning of that journey, what were some of the business challenges that you were looking to solve?
GenV is a research study that really tries to take a different approach to child health, development and wellbeing. And what we're doing is, rather than recruiting and having lots of little individual studies to answer individual questions, we're building a platform that's really set and ready to find solutions to health, development and wellbeing challenges that children and families face. And so our real significant challenges were, how do we engage with and speak with and provide every new family of a baby over a 2-year period to take part in GenV, so that we can then follow them for many, many years. So 2 really key challenges were, how do we facilitate an interaction and a recruitment interaction into the study? And then also, how do we keep a long-term relationship with that family, so that then we can pull together data and biological samples to make them available for research.
Thank you, Will, for telling us a little about GenV. I was really keen for you to elaborate on that and just tell us a little bit about the significance of the project, because it is quite a large and significant piece of work that you've embarked on.
GenV has the opportunity to be one of the largest, if not the largest, child health, development and wellbeing cohort study on the planet, which I think is really exciting, really amazing. What we're seeing in adulthood, and especially late adulthood, is these mega studies in the UK and the Netherlands, the US, that are really transforming the way that we address policy and practice questions, prevention, treatment, early intervention. We're not seeing that in children, and also in young adults and that parenthood and family space. And so GenV is really seeking solutions to better prediction, prevention, treatment and services for the Victorian children and families, but also children and families in Australia and all around the world. And so I suppose it really does represent something pretty unique, pretty impactful potentially, and is a resource that hopefully will be used by many policymakers, researchers and service providers for decades to come.
It certainly sounds like a huge piece of work, and I'm sure technology has a pretty strong role to play in that piece of work. Just over the past couple of years, going through the pandemic as we are, I'm just curious, have you seen any significant changes or impact on the challenges?
Most definitely. So I think there's almost 2 parts to that. The first part is obviously the huge impact that it's had on our societies, on pregnant women and families during pregnancy, but also young children when they're born and in their early development. So, mums having to measure their own stomachs during pregnancy because they can't get face-to-face for care because of COVID. Babies not seeing the maternal child health nurses in early life. And what we see is the likely impacts of that around health, development and wellbeing. So number 1, I suppose it makes the need to understand what life looks like for this generation even more important. Thinking about what we've tried to do during this process, we planned and we'd been thinking and talking about GenV for about 6 or 7 years and really got going about 3 or 4 years ago, was how do we see people when you can't see them, where you can't be in hospital, where they're going home early. And so that really moved us to having a much more mixed approach to how we do things. So face-to-face where we could, where it was safe and appropriate, but a lot more sort of virtual telehealth and technology-driven recruitment engagement with our families. And so, definitely technology to enable that was a huge part.
When we think about the technology, with Salesforce in particular, what role has Salesforce played in helping to overcome some of those challenges?
So we chose Salesforce as a solution after going out to market before the pandemic, before we thought of that this was going to be a real challenge for us, as our model and our system to manage our participant interactions and that relationship going forward. I suppose we're pretty happy that we did choose a solution that would enable a switch from driving a face-to-face interaction to being able to interact with people both over the phone, but also SMS and email to enable them to interact with our recruitment platforms and that sort of thing. So it really enabled us to make that switch, I think, in a way, because of the breadth of what we could do with the system.
It's been particularly interesting seeing many organizations see some form of silver lining in the pandemic, if you can see it that way, and really accelerate the ability to deploy things like telehealth, for example. I know as a telehealth customer myself, it's something that I don't want to go away. So hopefully we can see some silver linings there. I'm curious, what advice would you give to other organizations who are perhaps embarking on this journey now?
It's so funny because I think we always assumed that you plan out, and we did have a plan. We thought we knew what the next couple of years was going to look like, and I suppose it's pretty safe to say they didn't happen. I think the big thing for us was there was no silver bullets. It was really around putting our people first and getting the right people in the virtual room as much as possible to really sort of incrementally face into the challenges. There was just too many things to deal with, every single thing all at once and in advance. We really had to move quickly. And so I think for us, it was, for instance, when it came to how do we use Salesforce differently and how do we interact with our participants differently, it was getting our recruiters who were out in the hospitals together with the team of developers and PAs who were helping us build out what it needed to look like in this different model, starting small and really iterating and building on that to get it there quicker, rather than waiting for a gold-plated solution and it would be too late.
And staying on the theme of advice, if you had your time again, is there anything that you would do differently through this project?
I'm sure there's a list longer than I can imagine. I think it would probably have to be really sort of almost doing that more. So taking my own advice in some respects, really, we always knew that we wanted this virtual model. We're working across the whole state of Victoria with regional families where it's not always as easy to see them face to face, especially with hospital transfers and where they get care and where they're born being different places. And so, really we knew we needed this capability, and we probably should have got going on it earlier, and it would have made it a slightly smoother ride for us. So I think it's, building up all of your capabilities that you're going to need, but to the minimum to get going.
Thank you, Will, so much for sharing a little bit more about GenV today. It's been insightful to learn how things have progressed over the last 3 or 4 years, and I wish you the best in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much.